Let me just draw your attention to the fact that Cherche's barracks profile says she is the scariest in the army when she gets angry. Now, bear in mind that at the moment, this army includes a yandere and a dragon. I think we'd better be very, very afraid of her at this point. So, how does Cherche fare stat-wise? Can she back that up? Well, she most certainly can. Cherche is very interesting. Cherche has the highest strength in the first generation aside from the Vake, and she's tied with him for the best strength cap modifier out of the first generation characters. In fact, pairing Cherche and Vake is one step to creating the highest possible strength cap in the entire game. But, yeah, then again, most of Cherche's really good strength comes from the Wyvern Rider's ridiculous class growth in strength. Like, it's just enormous just how much the Wyvern Rider class contributes as far as the growth goes. But even then, I mean, her base growth in strength is fairly decent, and she has decent base growth in skill and especially defense as well. Her base defense growth is very, very high. Unfortunately, Wyvern Rider doesn't exactly have the best defense growth modifier of classes, and it's really annoying because Cherche would be amazing as a general, but, well, you'll see her actual class options later, but let's just say that's not one of them. Again, based on her class, though, her speed is, well, it's 50%, which is decent, but it's not exactly the best, and her base speed growth is not all that great. And, of course, her resistance is fairly bad. Her magic base is okay, but it's definitely not the best. But at least she doesn't have a negative modifier there, but she does have a major negative resistance modifier, which actually really hurts some of her class options that you'll be seeing later, and slightly negative modifiers in skill and speed, so she's a bit more of a physical tank. The thing that's actually really awesome about Cherche, though, is her base stats. Her base stats are actually very, very good, having great strength, very good defense, and not that bad skill and speed either. So, Cherche is actually somewhat fast, and is very tanky right at the beginning. Think of her sort of as a flying general, and that's pretty much how you'd sum her up. Wyvern Riders have always actually been a very good class, usually in Fire Emblem. They're only really weak to wind magic, and I mean, it would be arrows, but their defense usually gets so high that arrows don't really bother them at all. It's mostly just wind magic. So, yeah, they've got great movement and are very tanky, and usually don't have that bad skill and speed either, so generally a pretty good class, but it's usually balanced out by Wyvern Riders who do join you, generally coming quite late into the game. So, yeah, Cherche, amazing strength, one of the highest in the game, and pretty decent stats elsewhere, though she'll end up a little bit slow. And great defense too, so if you want a flying tank, Cherche is the woman for the job. Just keep her away from archers early on, they'll still do quite a number on her. Especially considering how ridiculously impractical that back of her armor is. I mean, seriously, who would go into battle wearing something like that? That's just incredibly idiotic. Now, Cherche's class options are kind of bizarre. She may be very, very good as a Wyvern Rider, but to balance that out, a lot of her other class options are ones that she's really not suited for at all. Cherche is very much a one-trick, Wyvern. But that one trick is very, very good. She's just not very versatile at all. So I'll just talk mostly about the Wyvern Rider class. She's the first one who joins as that class, and as such, she'll be probably the first person you have access to really use these skills. Now, the skills from it usually benefit other classes more than the actual Wyvern Rider class branch itself, but they're okay for what they are. Tantivity is actually pretty decent because it increases stats when there are no allies nearby, and being a flying unit, Wyvern Riders will usually not be nearby allies. Of course, remember that pair-up partners don't count towards this, so Cherche can still pair up with someone and then fly away from the main army and still get the benefits of the skill. As a Wyvern Lord, that's really the main class that I promote her to, mostly because promoting her to the other branch will have her ditch maneuver for a random griffin, which is completely out of character. But as a Wyvern Lord, the skills that she learns are kind of okay. Quick Burn is definitely better than Slow Burn. having you start off with plus 15 to accuracy and evasion, and it going down every turn until the 15th turn. Now, most battles are not going to last for 15 turns. That's a very, very long time by the standards of this game, so you'll generally get a big benefit out of it for most of the battle. She'll also learn Swordbreaker from there, which is useful since she primarily uses axes, and that'll give her an extra accuracy and evasion boost against enemy sword users, help reverse the weapon triangle a little bit. Her other promotion option is Griffin Knight. In this class, her stats will be a little more balanced, but still leaning more towards strength and defense. Unfortunately, she will be locked into axes. Wyvern Lord does give her the option of lances, so the disadvantage of Griffin Knight is that it's not exactly the most versatile of classes, although it is fairly well balanced. And it learns some really good skills. I'd probably say better skills than Wyvern Lord. She'll learn Deliverer, which increases movement by 1 when paired up. Always a good skill considering how good pair up is and how you pretty much want to be paired up nearly all the time in this game. And Lancebreaker, which, well, let's be honest, I mean, Cherche needs no extra help taking down lance users. She's already pretty fantastic at it. And unlike people like Pan, the skill doesn't really help her that well in other classes, so it's an okay skill, but I mean, it's not like she needs the extra help taking down lance users anyway. The problem is, this is pretty much where Cherche's useful skill branches end, and class branches, because her other class options are just plain bizarre. Cleric and Troubadour, two primarily healing classes that mostly become magic users. Kinda weird, because while Cherche's magic base growth and her magic cap aren't awful, she'll only have a 40% magic growth at best, even as a sage, so that's definitely not going to cut it when you have, like, you know, Rickan's got like a 55% magic growth, and that's considered somewhat low by mage standards, so yeah, she's not the best in some of these class branches. So, even the skills aren't all that great. As a cleric, you have Miracle and Heal Touch. Heal Touch is not that great because she's not all that good as a healer anyway. And Miracle, I mean, seriously, someone as tanky as her really needs a skill to avoid taking, like, to reduce the damage of a fatal blow, really? I mean, when is she going to take a fatal blow? This class will promote to Sage and to War Cleric. Now, I'll talk about War Cleric later, but Sage, I've already mentioned it, I really don't think this is that good of a class for Cherche. I mean, really, she's not a very good magic user, so I'd pretty much ignore it. As a Troubadour, she can learn Demoiselle, which is actually an alright skill, boosting the accuracy and evasion of male allies within 3 spaces. And yes, she has a son who can inherit this, hilariously enough. Overall, this class generally provides the better skills for her, but as the class itself, still not that great. As is Valkyrie. As a Valkyrie, she'll still only have a 40% magic growth, which is really not going to cut it, although she will learn some very good skills from the class. Rally Resistance is okay, but then there's Dual Support Plus, which actually boosts the outright support rank that you got. It basically makes, like, for example, a C-rank support act as a couple of ranks higher, and it's the only way in the entire game to have access to the maximum possible support bonus. It's a very, very good skill, and due to the fact that Cherche lacks Gale Force, and that her child is male, this is probably the female-exclusive skill that I want to pass down to him, because it's actually very, very good, so if you're concerned about min-maxing, this is definitely the skill that I'd pass down to her son. War Cleric, though, Cherche is actually not that bad as a War Cleric. Unfortunately, she'll only have a 35% magic growth, which is really bad, so she won't be that good of a healer. But Cherche is actually one of the better offensive War Clerics in the game, mostly because she'll already have a decent axe rank from being a Wyvern Rider and Wyvern Lord, but also because she'll have great strength and pretty good defense. And she'll have very decent balanced stats all round, very well rounded. Cherche is actually not that bad as an offensive War Cleric, as far as just hitting hard with axes are concerned. In fact, she may be the best in the game at it. Unfortunately, as for the healing part of War Cleric, she won't be all that good, so really it's kind of a trade-off. I'd much prefer her as a Wyvern Rider and Wyvern Lord because, you know, if you're wanting her to do good damage with axes, you might as well give her really good movement on top of that. But if you want to change, and if you want a War Cleric who can actually do good damage with axes, Cherche is one of the few in the game who's actually capable of that, so this class is not terrible. That and Renewal giving her a bit of HP restoration every turn is an excellent skill considering how tanky she is in the Wyvern Rider class, so this can be a skill that's useful for her to use. Overall, while there are a couple of decent skills to be found in Cherche's alternative class branches, she's really a one-trick, again, Wyvern. She's really good as a Wyvern Rider and not much else. Then again, she's so good as a Wyvern Rider, she doesn't really need to be much else, so she may be not that versatile, but she makes up for it in just how good she is at what she does. Interestingly enough, Cherche is voiced by Amanda C. Miller, who I've mentioned before. She also voices someone else in this game. You'll never guess who. Given up yet? It's Sully. Yeah! Considering that Cherche, by the developers' admittance, was designed with the typical housewife archetype in mind, the fact that her voice actress in English also voices Sully is kind of hilarious and really shows some good vocal range. Unfortunately, Amanda C. Miller hasn't really done all that many voice acting roles like I mentioned with Sully. I already said most of them in her profile, and in the others that I could mention, they're kind of massive spoilers. Like, simply mentioning the role is a huge spoiler, because let's just say that Amanda C. Miller only voices part of these characters, so even that's kind of a huge spoiler for a particular game, and even saying, well, game is would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to mention that. But I will say that she is very good considering that she voices both Sully and Cherche.